Welcome to Deep Thought. Developing the will. Now, the will is deep. The will is deep. Now, understand, and I said this in a previous video, a lot of people think they have a strong will because they're basically stubborn. They don't want to listen, but they really just stubborn. The will is the ability to actively make a choice in your best interest at a crossroads event, right? You employ the will when you say, I'm not going to have a second helping of this great meal because it would have put on weight. You employ the will when you say, I'm going to stop smoking, or I'm not going to smoke this cigarette. You employ the will when you say, you got this woman in front of you. If you're a man, you got this woman in front. She butt naked. She said you can go raw, but you know that's crazy. You know, you employ the will when you say, I'm going to wear a condom. Or a woman, she employs her will when she says, I'm not going to mess with this married man, right? Whenever you make a choice, it's a conscious thing. It's not an automatic thing. Now, it might become automatic if you learn to employ it a lot. But really, you use your willpower when you do something. You know, it comes through discipline. Now, developing it. You know, there's several ways to develop it, right? Several ways to develop it. Like just learning to actively abstain from something. Like when you talk about stuff like Lent or something with the Catholic Church, that's developing your will. If you say, well, for 40 days, I'm not going to deal with this, or I'm not going to eat this. That's the will. That's the will right there. Or if you say, I'm going to fast for a certain amount of days, that's a lot of willpower. Trust me. You know, that develops it. Or you're going to abstain or something like that. In fact, fasting that's a very good way to develop the will, because if you can control a basic instinct such as eating, because trust me, anybody who's fasted knows, like for longer than a day, that's tough to do. Because all of a sudden, your body is like, what, hold up, dog. You ain't got something coming. Oh, wait a minute. All of a sudden, all those foods you like to eat start like popping in your head. You know, that barbecue that you know you shouldn't mess with pops in your head. You're like, no. And it's like everything starts, you know, it's tough, right? Or if you're going to abstain from, like you got this past November, it was called No Fap November, right? You know, some dudes were going to abstain from masturbating, right? Trust me, that was probably, I know some people, if they manage to do it, that develops your will, because, you know, anytime you can like forego pleasure, that's your willpower. In fact, in many indigenous cultures, for the boys, they were given many tasks to do, which the purpose was to develop the will, right? Now, those are just some basic things. It's on paper, it's easy to do. It's easy to say, oh, I'm not going to eat this food for a month or whatever. Yeah, but in real life, like I said, you be thinking you're going to like abstain from some food, diet, eat fewer portions, and then all that good stuff that you like to eat in the past pops up, right? And or like with Alcoholics Anonymous or people who are alcoholic, I like how they say they've been sober for like 100 days, 300 days or something, because they realize it's an everyday thing. But that's actually a good development of their will not to drink. That is a great development of their will, and how they have support groups for that, right? Now, understand something. Here's how deep the will is. Now, let me back up a bit. In many spiritual traditions, including early Christianity, there were 3 levels to man. And it's best explained through the way that it was explained through Confucianism, which is the inferior man, the masses, or the inferior man, the superior man, and the sage. We won't get into the sage now. That gets into some deep stuff. That's like Jesus level right there, because more people are familiar with Christianity. Though the sage is the one who can start a religion or a spiritual path, rather, to be more accurate, right? But for somebody to go from the inferior position of the masses, right, into a superior position, the key piece is the will. When a man or woman can employ their will at crossroads situations, key situations, they are well on their way becoming a superior person, reaching a second level of human evolution, spiritual evolution, right? They well on their way towards it. But if you really look at society, the overwhelming majority of people are not at that second level. In fact, the numbers who you could probably fill a good football stadium with the people who are really at that level in this world, like one of those really big stadiums or something, right? Who are truly at that level, right? Because if you look at most people's will is not developed. In fact, I was discussing this. I was talking with somebody the other day. Shout out Warren Lance, the pimp god. I was in D.C. the other day. And we were walking, and I was talking with him and Dr. Scott, and we were just like, most of these people out here are zombies. Most of these people are just, if you look at most people's will is not developed. Just sit back sometime and really watch people. Like smoking, right? You get people, I've been on jobs where people will go out, it would be like 20 below outside, they outside smoking a cigarette. Like, that was so bad that you had to create laws just, that people just need to stop. I mean, you have it on the packaging, this could give you cancer. You have some on the packaging that said this could be a problem and people still do it. That's a willpower thing, they just following along. See, what it is, most people are following their, for lack of a better term, lower impulses, their instincts and everything, or they following along the path set for them by the elite. See, understand something, and could be yet another conversation. The elite doesn't control anything. They just build fences. In fact, I'm going to make that my next one, all right? But I'll write it down in a second. I want to keep my flow, all right? But if you look at most people just follow. They don't employ their will. Seriously. They don't employ their will at all. They just follow along. They think they are sometimes. But even then, they just following something else. And a lot of people do stuff that's detrimental to their own being because they following along their impulses, or they following along the crowd, they following along the herd, right? And some people have become so used to following that they are sleepwalking. That's why sometimes you get an accident. Most people are in like a mild trance as they are walking down the street. They go into the store, everything. And the scary thing about the trance, they can still interact with somebody. They can still interact with people. It's like they can even think deep thoughts, but they still following along. They're zombies. A lot of people did. I think that contributes. I think people deep down on a spiritual level know that. That's why all these zombie shows got real popular, right? And in fact, on another thing, that's another one. God, hold on a bit. I got to write this one down. Yeah, I had to write that one down. And plus, I'll be getting the one about the elite. All of that'll come next week. But most people, I mean, they just following along something. They following along the path set by somebody else. A lot of people ain't really thinking. And thinking is part of your will. If you actually can think about something when you at a crossroads events, like, hold up, why am I really doing this? Like I can give you a good one, the will. I'll give you a good example. You go see a movie, right? You go see a movie. No matter how much that price is ridiculous, they'll charge $10 for a small bag of popcorn. Another $5 for, a big old drink, right? I mean, shoot, because I've joked before, you gotta take a loan out to go some of these movies, even if you by yourself. Say, shoot, go to the pawn shop. You pawn a gold watch or something. You might be talking and say, you be like, yeah, I need some money real quick. And they never ask you about money unless they know you. It's like, oh, you all right? You say, well, I'm going to see a movie. They'd be like, oh, they probably got a lot of stuff in pawn shops because of that. But think about something. You know it's expensive, but yet you go in there and you buy some popcorn and all of that stuff. And that's how it works. A lot of people, they just going along. Their will isn't developed. They're asleep. Their will is asleep. And one of the things with some spiritual systems, one of the things with rites of passages in indigenous cultures, the purpose was to wake people up. All right. So, but the first thing is just really work on developing. Do stuff I said. Fast sometimes, do some abstain. And that will gradually develop. And then it's like a muscle. Once you develop it, when you get to those crossroads events when you need to make the right choice, you're able to do so. Deep stuff. So anyway, right? That's it. I'll talk to you later. Peace and blessings.